All right, welcome everyone. I'm here with my buddy Bill Weppner, MAS member, former NASA flight controller during the Apollo missions. And we are watching what we think will be the countdown to the first step in the launch of Artemis I. And we're looking at hopefully a live feed here from NASA and the Kennedy Space Center, the VAB, the large building where the actual rocket is going to roll out from. And you can see here the vehicle assembly building. I think we got about 7 minutes here on the countdown before they roll it out. So this is essentially the first 4 miles of the journey. So assuming that's what we're watching, Bill, why don't you kind of enlighten us here as to what
I agree. I misinterpreted that clock. It's counting down, not up.
Okay.
So I think we're in good shape here.
Well, this is a live feed from the Artemis I Rollout YouTube channel. And it is about 8:53 p.m. Central Time, August the 16th. This is incidentally, the 45th anniversary of the passing of Elvis Presley. For those of you who want a little Memphis trivia. So,
yes.
And in about 6 minutes, we should see the Artemis I rocket rolling out from the vehicle assembly building and starting to make its way to the launch pad. And in the upper right there, you can see the actual launch window. The countdown to 12 days, 10 hours, 38 minutes until launch. So what is Artemis I? So this is the first launch in a series of missions to hopefully put man back on the moon again in the next few years or so, or before this decade is out.
And it's going to be launched on the all-time largest launch vehicle, the Space Launch System. 8.5 million pounds of thrust.
Wow. Now, how does this compare to the Saturn V rocket?
It's about 1 million pounds more.
1 million pounds
more. It's got
more.
those two solid boosters. So it's absolutely huge. And it'll have the Orion spacecraft, which will accommodate 4 people ultimately. They're going to have mannequins on this one.
Right. This is not a manned mission. This is basically mannequins, an unmanned mission.
It's quite ambitious.
It is. So this is essentially a reboot of Apollo 8, but without astronauts, right? We're slingshotting it around the moon.
Well, they're going to go into lunar orbit for several days, maybe up to about 24. It's going to be a very high elliptical orbit. I think the perigee would be something like 40,000 miles above the lunar surface.
Yeah, so they're getting close. So again,
now the first manned flight, and I've got to get a better date for that, Artemis II, that will be crewed in that's CREWED. And that'll be more of the slingshot type mission as was Apollo 8.
Right. Yeah, I was looking at it earlier today. I think the date is somewhere, I want to say May 2024, somewhere in that area is the target.
Well, that was another question I asked my contact at NASA after I presented to the Astronomical Society. Are there more specific dates for Artemis II, Gateway, and Artemis III? So stay tuned. That's a topic of my next talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Gateway project will be exciting too, to see when they start assembling that.
Yes.
So Gateway is kind of like a scaled down version of the ISS, and as the name implies, its sole purpose is to provide a lunar gateway between missions from Earth to the moon. So instead of just sending a vehicle out into deep space to land on the moon, you actually rendezvous with a gateway and then refuel and resupply for simplicity purposes, and then you jettison a lunar lander onto the surface, and then it rendezvous with a gateway on the way back. Is that the best way to describe it?
Yes, very accurate. And I think there's still some unknowns of what that lander will look like.
Right.
It's called the Human Landing System, HLS.
HLS. And the Orion space capsule will rendezvous with the gateway. That's the one that brings the 4 astronauts.
Yes.
So again, this is really the first mini step.
Box down here.
Oh,
so they're changing the format of this display a little bit real time. That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So in the note below, you can see
some action here in a minute and a half.
Right. You can see the note below. NASA has resumed rollout operations and are now targeting 10 p.m. Eastern time for the Artemis I rollout. And of course, that's 9 p.m. Central time.
Well, we're coming up on that.
Teams arrive on stations. 10 days, 7 hours, 33 minutes, 51 seconds. So it looks like the countdown timer has changed.
Oh, I see. This is fun. They're changing these clocks on us.
Right. NASA has resumed rollout operations following a phase 2 lightning warning.
Oh,
so obviously
okay.
This is a fluid situation.
Well, that's Florida.
Yeah, if you got weather coming in, you got
to be. With this time of year in the afternoon, they can get some real screamers.
Sure. Yeah, you never know.
And you probably don't want to be moving that tower or anywhere near it in an electrical storm.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our continuing live coverage of the rollout of Artemis I. It is now 10 o'clock on the eastern seaboard of North America, and NASA has resumed its rollout operations following a phase 2 lightning warning, which has led to about a 1 hour delay in tonight's operations, but we are now officially in the rollout time. We are waiting to hear updates from NASA that they are actually beginning to lift the mobile launcher with SLS up onto the actual crawler. That is the next major phase that we are watching for, beginning the rollout operations. But at this time, NASA continuing to say they are on track to begin rollout operations in the next few minutes. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, let people know that we are now into rollout ops of Artemis I ahead of its launch attempt in 12 days, 10 hours, and 32 minutes from now. There are 2 countdown clocks on the top of your screen. The first one, teams arrive on station in 10 hours, 7 minutes, and 10 days, 7 hours, and 32 minutes. That is when launch teams will arrive into the LCC, the Launch Control Center, in preparations for the opening of that launch window. It takes from an L-45 hour countdown clock to run through fueling operations and prep ahead of a launch attempt. And that is when teams will arrive. On the top right of your screen, that is when the launch window opens on August 29th at 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time. The launch window opens for a 2-hour attempt window, and that's what we are counting down to now. But tonight, you're joining us for our live coverage of the rollout operations of Artemis I. We're going to be answering your guys' questions throughout the night, so make sure you keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad and share out the broadcast to let people know that we are now into those rollout operations and watching history made as SLS rolls out for hopefully the last time ahead of its launch. 18,250 days ago, Apollo 17 rolled out from the vehicle assembly building at NASA Kennedy Space Center, making this very similar trip out to the launch pad in preparation for launch. And that was the last time NASA had a crewed moon rocket that was flight ready and certified for launch. And we are now going to reset that clock 18,250 days later, we are going back. We are just 12 days away from a launch attempt, but NASA has certified the rocket. It has completed its flight readiness reviews, and they are go for rollout and go for the launch attempt, of course, pending weather and final checkouts at the pad. But if you're just joining us, the Phase 2 lightning warning at NASA Kennedy Space Center has been completed and lifted now for the entire region, which means rollout operations are resuming in the region. We've heard from Nick, our TLP rocket chaser on site. They have been allowed back along the crawlerway. We're told they were still targeting that 10 o'clock roll time, so we are keeping a close eye on that. If you haven't yet, though, take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space briefing, space news update, or exclusive one-on-one interview. We're excited to be rolling out a bunch of new equipment starting next week down on the Space Coast to bring you guys even better coverage of future rollouts, testing, and launch coverage, and we can't wait for you guys to see that starting up just next week, and that's only thanks to your guys' generous support. We're going to take another quick commentary break. Stay with us as you're looking at a live view of the NASA VAB, as well as Launch Complex 39B, as we await the rollout of Artemis I beginning its journey back to the moon. Stay with us.
Excellent.
Good coverage. Good summary.
So now they're lifting the rocket onto the crawler, which of course is the large vehicle.
Gosh, I thought that was already done.
I did too.
Of course, it's empty, but even so, we're talking about tons and tons. That's got to be a slow process.
Right.
I'm wondering if this will even exit the building for the, in the next hour or so.
Right.
This is going to be an all-night operation. We might have to work in shifts.
Grab the coffee, grab the popcorn, and
the alarm.
Grab the alarm. We could be here a while. This is one of those things. Obviously, NASA takes their time with these things.
Well, this is something you don't want to rush.
Right.
And that's one of the comments. I don't think I made it at the my presentation. I was thinking about it. I just kept it just in case. But Elon Musk has made some comments that, he's a maverick. He's a visionary. He's brilliant, but he's a maverick. And he made some comment that if we don't pursue Mars with some sort of an emergency attitude, then we might never make it. And that's one thing to say, but let's not forget, we're dealing with hypergolic propellants here.
Right. Yeah. And you're going millions of miles into space.
That's right. And you can't rush this.
Right.
You just can't.
Yeah, it's a linear process. And keep in mind, when you're talking space travel, you're putting human beings into an environment that's literally trying to kill you. There's nothing out there.
Absolutely. Even lunar. And I'm all for lunar, but I'm willing to continue pursuing Mars remotely because we're getting pretty good at that.
Yeah. Well, you look at the sophistication of the last two rovers that we put on the surface of Mars, Curiosity, and now its successor, Perseverance. The instrumentation, the tools, the cameras, the technology that's on board.
Gosh,
these
yes.
roaming robots, essentially. They're basically robotic field geologists, for lack of a better way of describing it. So it seems like in terms of time, dollars, and certainly the safety of human beings, you could argue pretty easily we're better off pouring our resources into making better robots and sending robots out into whatever worlds.
I think so, and you can communicate with a robot, much faster than you can sending a human out there.
Right. And I heard a statistic somewhere I don't know if this is true. I have to verify it, but 95 cents of every dollar that NASA spends on a manned mission goes toward just keeping the human beings alive. So 95% of the budget would be just on the life support.
That's pretty incredible, but yeah.
Keeping them alive. So what could you do with that 95 cents per dollar, that 95% budget toward, again, designing and making a robot more sophisticated and more autonomous to explore?
And we can do that. I mean, we got robots that will, I forget what the jump is called. If a human can just visualize a box and I'm standing on the floor, and if I approach the base of the box and just jump with both feet to the top of the box, that's a particular type of jump. It's great for the cardiovascular system if you do it repeatedly. Well, they got robots that'll do that.
Wow. Wow. So, yeah. Now, the counter argument is, imagine boots were set on the ground on Mars.
Well,
what it could do for the imagination and
yeah,
for our innate instinct to explore and go beyond and really stretch the boundaries of what's possible.
Well, and it's hard to counter that argument. And I mean, we can go all the way back to Christopher Columbus and his ilk.
Yeah. It had to be quite a journey back then, 500 years ago, to get on board a wooden ship and sail directly west, not knowing what you're going to run into. And
he got people to go with him.
Yep, he did. Yeah. That in and of itself is pretty incredible. Changed the course of history. And of course, you lived through the Apollo missions. You had a front row seat essentially as a flight controller. What was it like to witness those missions for the first time?
Again, there was so much of it that it was a regular day's job. And we realized the importance, but it was more the technology and the accuracy, and we had to do it well and right, and we had to practice until we knew what we were doing.
Yeah. You think about the period of time in which that mission was accomplished. I mean, from 61.
Oh, that's amazing. From 62 to 69.
Right.
Incredible.
I think of where things were technologically.
Yes.
When Kennedy initiated his bold challenge. I mean, we're further along technologically speaking today in terms of putting man on Mars than the United States was in 1961 when he said we need to get to the moon by the end of the decade. So it had to be just an incredible feat, of course, to push and to be challenged and to make that technology work and available. And then, of course, those missions. So.
But I don't think the commitment is here, not for the Congress, at least.
No.
And,
but in terms of the imagination, I mean, obviously there were other things going on.
Well, there was, we were fighting the Soviets. This was important back then.
Yeah. Well, history would look very different if the Soviets had gotten there first. A communist regime had been successful.
Don't you know? Yeah.
So in terms of the success and longevity of democracy and the legitimacy of democracy, it was a valid feat for sure. So today, the motivation.
I'll tell you a story. This is just sort of would, I guess, fall into the category of a cocktail type story. But shortly after I got into the Air Force, this was in 1959, and it was within a few weeks. It was a Friday evening, and we were in the officers club after work, having a beer or two, and I met this young captain, And I was living in the BOQ at the time, Bachelor Officers Quarters. And this was right above the flight line. And they had run a couple of exercises that went well into the night, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, with F-86 fighters. And they were testing I think it was part of the SAGE semi-automatic ground environment, SAGE early warning system, which was developed by MIT Lincoln Lab, which was co-located at the base. This was in Massachusetts. And any rate, it was hard to sleep when those F-86s would go to afterburner at right below the windows of my BOQ and take off. And so I was remarking to this young man, and he was a pilot. And I said, God, they're loud. And he says, and I think he probably had a couple of beers. He says, yeah, but it's better that noise than the sound of Russians.
That's right.
So the threat was there.
It was a very real threat back then.
It was definitely a real threat. Yes.
Threat as in, you can imagine a scenario almost to the point of being inevitable where you would hear the sounds of an invading army, coming overseas and possibly initiating an act of warfare on your soil. So the fact that we were spared that during that time.
And just before 62, 61, in fact, I just watched the movie Bridge of Spies yesterday. It was on a channel. I've rented it a couple of times. I had to go sit through the commercials. But if you haven't seen it, it's based on a true story. It's with Tom Hanks. And it's how we traded a Russian spy that we caught for Francis Gary Powers, who in 1961 was shot down in his U-2.
Wow.
And this was a 70,000-foot airplane, all wings, for the objective of photographing the Russian terrain. And it got shot down. And he was captured alive. And so we did this trade. So that was what the whole story was based on. So, but we were collecting each other's spies and trading back and forth. It was real. The Cold War was real. Fortunately, It was just cold.
Yeah. Fascinating time.
It was.
The tension was there.
This was 61.
Yeah.
I had a roommate. I'm trying to think. It was about that same time, give or take. He was a pilot on a KC-135, and one of his missions was an atomic bomb burst over Hawaii, an isolated island, I think, in Hawaii. And their mission was, I think, a lot of measuring equipment. I'm not exactly sure what the objective of his particular sortie in his airplane was, but he does say that he was at altitude. I don't know what altitude, when one of these atomic bursts was triggered, and they told him to drop the visors on their hard hats, which were, of course, they were visors not unlike your sunglasses, probably more opaque than that. And then cover your visors with your elbow.
Yeah.
And he says, even then, the brightness, you go through all that precaution. He says that it still lit up the cockpit. He says it was just amazing.
Yeah.
And he was at altitude. So just those snippets of information, the kinds of explosiveness and what we were dealing with. Unfortunately, we've never used it against each other, and I hope to God that never occurs. And we're still talking about it. We're still talking about the threat.
Yeah, a nuclear exchange, still a very real threat, keeps us on edge.
Not necessarily from the Russians, although it could occur. We're looking at Iran.
Yep. A nuclear Iran would certainly change the world. Russia was a threat, but at least with the concept of MAD, mutually assured destruction,
Yes.
they logically speaking understood that if there was an exchange, they would be obliterated just like we would. So there seemed to be at least a joint consensus to try and avoid that possibility at any and all costs, which is why communication
We
was so
certainly
important.
hope, but we've again we triggered Putin's. We made him mad, and I saw one presentation. I can't remember who it was, but we said, well, the way we have supported Ukraine and so on, it's not necessarily a threat. And the speaker was saying it's not important what we think; it's what Putin thinks.
Right. Seems like the Cold War is flaring up all over again.
Yes, it is.
We want to champion the cause of democracy, but we walk that thin line, or that fine line, between fighting for or supporting nations who are fighting for their independence and not provoking our enemies to do something rash.
And Ukraine has got a bit of a checkered past as well.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough one.
It is.
Just,
really is.
It requires shrewd diplomacy. We just hope that the leaders who are in charge have some of that. So that's a tough call. So what are your thoughts long term on what would be accomplished, assuming that Artemis 1, 2, 3, the successive missions over the next 5 years or so are a go, and we do in fact get back there, and we see humans on the surface of the moon again?
Well, if we haven't, I think we should be thinking longer term and what kind of goals our lunar exploration should be. I think you could do so much geologically. Do we want to set up camps long term that could be occupied for several months, possibly?
Yeah, there's still a lot of science.
Do we want to use the moon and a sophisticated gateway as a launch pad to go to Mars? That's not going to occur in my lifetime. I don't know. Again, I've voiced my opinions of that. I think we can do a lot more with robots, sophisticated robots. We got the capability and the know-how to do that. But again, it's the exploratory passion of man to, climb that mountain or go to that planet because it's there.
Yeah. Why climb the mountain? Because it's there.
I think maybe we could accomplish more useful things near term on the lunar surface. But again, how much?
Yeah.
Maybe we can make some comparisons between operations on the lunar surface and operations on the International Space Station. Are there any things that we can't do on the ISS that could be done on the lunar surface? I don't know.
Right. And then test possibly long-term human survival / physiology.
Yeah, I mean, we got to. Hey, I'm all for protecting the Earth. Mm-hmm. God forbid if we start to run out of room or something, we might have to think about colonizing the moon.
Right.
I don't see it practically, but hey, again, this wouldn't occur in my lifetime. I don't think any of our lifetimes.
No, not at all. But you think of that line from one of the Star Trek movies when they go back in time and tell people, yeah, there are 50 million people living on the moon in my time, and that's only a few hundred years into the future. You go back 500 years ago, what did the North American continent look like compared to what it looks like today? So that's only a few centuries.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I think just in terms of the aspect of pure science, what we've learned about the moon and its past and its possible origin from the Apollo moon landing missions, gathering those rocks, bringing them back, analyzing them, and then coming to a very different conclusion scientifically about the possible origin of the moon. I still think it's a completely crazy idea, but when you look at the composition of moon rocks in comparison to Earth rocks, the geology tells a fascinating story, no matter how far-fetched it is. That's information we didn't have prior to the Apollo moon landing.
That's absolutely right. Yes.
So the moon landings weren't just about planting the American flag and beating the Soviets or whatever the political ambitions were, although that was a huge accomplishment, as well as the influencing the minds of men and the imagination of men and being able to accomplish something as amazing as putting human beings on the moon. But scientifically speaking, there was a lot of accomplishment from gathering those lunar samples, bringing them back, and they're still being studied to this day.
Oh,
So
especially, yes. So we can do more of that.
We can. We can. You mentioned Apollo 8 is your favorite mission.
What was accomplished with the Space Webb telescope, what we're starting to see from that, and the clarity and how far back we can go, that's going to add an awful lot. Right.
We've really just entered a new era in astronomy. So the images are just starting to come in now. We're still processing them. And the fact that we have this telescope now that can see the birth of stars in dusty regions.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yep. And then how far
back. By the way, I looked at some of the topics you're going to be discussing at your next meeting. When is that? Tomorrow or?
September 9. Oh, well, yeah, our next meeting for the Memphis Astronomical Society will be September the 9th. It should be the second Friday in September, because the first Friday is Labor Day weekend.
Presentation, but I mean, some of the topics didn't mean a whole lot to me. You were talking about things that I'd never heard those topics before.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that. It just, you sent something out today. Oh, I'm not going to mess this up, so.
That's okay. So we plan to discuss the James Webb Space Telescope at our next meeting.
Well, good, but that wasn't it. What have you got between now and the 9th?
Oh, those are observing sessions, outreach events. So this, this coming Saturday, we're going to be at Pinecrest Camp.
No, I thought there was. Is there anything between now and Saturday?
No.
Okay.
No, nothing. Oh. Well, we have an astrophotography group meeting tomorrow night.
Well, that might have been it.
Yeah. That's okay. So that's our focus group. We have a separate astrophotography focus group for those who are into astrophotography. And yeah, a lot of those topics were didn't mean a whole lot to me either, because I'm not as entrenched in astrophotography as some of our other members. But for those of our members who are, it's pretty detailed. So
yeah, that it was that notification you sent out.
Yeah,
well, you're putting a whole lot of work into this, Jeremy. You keep us posted, and I'm sure a lot of it is, you can copy and paste, but and then send it out in batch form. But it's great, very professionally done.
Well, I appreciate that. We got a good membership and strong.
Okay, well, something I just now noticed, these two scenes we're looking at. The one on the left, of course, is the one that I've been looking at all day, of the vehicle assembly building, and then the other one is the launch complex.
Okay.
launch complex. So I presume that they're going to light this thing with floods. They always have. And it'll be pretty spectacular as this thing exits the VAB and then disappears from that view, that window, and then it's picked up as it approaches the complex. That's going to be an all-nighter.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're doing it at night, but
they look the same when you don't have any lights on them and you're seeing it at night. But essentially, the video on the left is the NASA VAB. That's the Vehicle Assembly Building. It's the large building where they assemble the rockets. And of course, that's the same building where all of the Apollo Saturn V rockets were rolled out.
And shuttle.
The launch pad. And the shuttle. Yeah. And then on the right is Launch Pad 39B. What does LC stand for? Launch Complex?
Yes.
Okay, so that's Launch Complex 39B. That's the actual pad where the rocket is going to lift off. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the same launch pad where Apollo 11 was launched.
Yes.
So you're basically seeing almost a replay of the events of 50 years ago, the 6 Apollo moon landing missions, including, of course, the one that's most notorious, which is Apollo 11. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Mike Collins, the first attempt to place man on the moon. So, we're basically looking at a live feed here. It's 9:29 p.m. now, Central Time, August the 16th. And, we expect sometime, hopefully soon, to see the Artemis I space vehicle being rolled out of the vehicle assembly building on the left and making its slow crawl to the launch pad, Launch Complex 39B on the right. And it's at night, so you hope that they will put some lights on it so that anyone who's going to be pulling an all-nighter to watch this will, in fact, actually see it. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Jeremy, we can volunteer for this, but in another few minutes, maybe sometime in the next half hour, I'm going to have to walk the 2 dogs. That's going to be about a 20-minute process for both of them. I walk them separately, but a very short walk. So you can man the post then. And then if you have to run an errand, I'll man it. We can bring our phones. And if anything exciting occurs, you can alert
one. You got to walk the dogs. I got to do my night chores too. So we don't know. This could happen in the next 5 minutes. It could be another couple hours. So we, ultimately we don't know.
I don't know if Joanne has joined us or not, but she's driving to Santa Fe tomorrow.
Oh, something's happening here.
What do we got here? Is that
we got
moving?
lights here.
It's moving. Yep.
Okay, so the vehicle is starting to move now.
It's exiting the VAB.
So you can see the crawler with the rocket. It looks like you can see one of the boosters there, the white.
Oh, yeah, right yeah. The whole thing is assembled. You can see the floodlight on the left.
Yep.
Oh, this is great.
So here we go.
So that's right, not a camera at the launch complex, obviously. That's just on the other side of the VAB. Well, this is exciting.
This really is. So again, if we were going to title this, I guess we would call it Artemis I, the first 4 miles, which is essentially the distance from
How about
the
first 4 feet?
Oh, the first 4 feet. But yeah, let's get some movement here, right?
It's moving, but
takes a minute to get it going.
It's kind of like birth. You don't rush these things.
Right. Yeah, you got to just let it happen, right?
Exactly.
So it's 9:31 p.m. right now. And again, we're watching a live feed on August 16, the 45th anniversary of the death of Elvis Presley, of NASA rolling out the Artemis I space launch system to the launch pad, Launch Complex 39B, and you're seeing a live feed from the Kennedy Space Center. And the first launch attempt is scheduled for August 29th, which is essentially 12 and a half days from now. You can actually see the counter in the upper right there. 12 days, 10 hours, almost to the second of when the Artemis I spacecraft is going to be launched in its first attempt to, well, it's basically a test flight to orbit the moon, unmanned. Well, we're seeing some action here now, Bill.
I've never seen this before.
And again, you can tell on the right side there that that's the vehicle assembly building. You've seen pictures of it. On the very left side there, I'll be able to visually illustrate it. So this is the gray part of the building right there. The doors are open. This is one of the booster rockets. So we should hear some publicity about this in the coming days as well. So has your fall semester begun teaching?
A week from yesterday, the 22nd. But we have convocation on Thursday. And that'll be an all-day thing because it starts at 9 o'clock, 9 till 11, I guess. And that's with the president and the administration. And then we break for lunch. And then we have division meetings, and that's probably an hour and a half. And then we have department meetings. So it's an all-day affair.
Yeah.
So it looks like they've got a strobe on that. Well, it's tall enough.
Yeah. So to get this thing moving, what is it propelled by? I mean, what powers the crawler?
I think diesel. I mean, there's a guy
diesel?
driving that. Remember that slide I had for the Apollo? There's a cab in there.
Yeah. One guy driving the cab.
In fact, remember Mike, what's his last name? He hosted the program Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
And one of the jobs, well, he had a lot of them. I think the worst one he ever had was working on a pig farm. But one of the jobs he volunteered to do and they documented was he was lubricating some of the parts on that crawler.
Oh, wow. That is a dirty job. You can imagine.
Oh, it's on YouTube, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, they had him at the top of the Golden Gate Bridge repainting part of that.
No, thank you. Scare heights.
No.
That wouldn't be for me.
I'd like to be able to drive this thing. Although that might be the most boring job in the world too, because it's so slow. I don't imagine you got your foot on a gas pedal.
Right. And what's involved in driving it? You can imagine the driver just kind of sitting there.
I'm sure it's all done, like flying a 777 or something. I'm sure it's all glass controls and they're just monitoring it.
Right.
Yeah, those are strobes, I think, on board.
Yeah.
Well, this is really, I mean, It's terribly slow, but this is exciting. I have never seen this before. I knew it existed, but I've never seen it.
Right.
I've been in
the Apollo missions either.
I've been in the vertical assembly building.
Oh wow. What was your impressions of the building being inside in terms of the size, scale?
Huge.
Oh man.
And they took us on an elevator up to the top. This was during the shuttle days. One of my assignments was the Inspector General's team on Air Force Systems Command. And so we had to visit, and this was almost 50 years ago, Patrick Air Force Base, the part of Systems Command that they owned. And we had a team of, maybe 70 or 80 guys, all sorts of specialties, flyers, ground people, engineers, you name them. So anyway, we got an opportunity to, and they hosted us, and they took us up into the VAB for a couple of hours. I mean, it's just an immense operation. It's almost awe-inspiring when you get inside. You kind of look around, and all you see are these gantries and multi-level what's the word I'm after? Scaffolding, multi-level scaffolding, although it's permanent scaffolding.
Wow.
And I've heard, I didn't experience this, but I've heard that Florida weather being what it is, at the very top, if the humidity and everything is right, they can get some rain at the top.
Get their own climate. That's how big that building is.
It generates its own climate. That's exactly right.
That's amazing.
But I guess it's just fascinating to think of the forethought that they had to construct this thing, because this goes back to the days of Saturn.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what fascinates me.
VAB, when you consider how many launches it supported, they got their money's worth out of that.
Yeah. They were just trying to get there once. They landed 6 times successfully.
Yeah, and then all the shuttle.
Yeah. Yeah, and then all the shuttle landings as well. So, yeah, to think about the scale and the design, and then it was essentially built in the 60s, of course.
Yeah.
During the Apollo era, so they had to build this building in preparation for the Saturn V rockets that were going to be launched. So they had to know how big to make it and how big those rockets were going to be. So,
well, one of the things they've had to do for this, since that launch escape tower that goes, it covers the Orion spacecraft and then extends, it's got a pretty good rocket system in and of itself. Hopefully it won't be used ever, but it's there to get that Orion spacecraft off the booster if they ever have to destroy the booster, either on the pad or on shortly after liftoff. That's tall enough where they had to cut out a wedge, a rectangular wedge at the very top of that entrance you see. Our title slide here is got that covered up. I don't know if we can. Can we get rid of this? I guess not. That's the NASA feed.
Yeah, it's a NASA feed.
But if you could back away. I'll tell you what, I got a picture of it on one of my flash drives. I'll send it to you when this is over. I'll get it to you tomorrow. It's just a little wedge to accommodate that launch escape system that wasn't necessary, I don't think, for during the Apollo days. I don't know why not, because these are about the same height.
Yeah. Yeah. Wish we had a picture of that so people could see that. So.
Well, this is not a fast operation. Let me fool with it a little bit. The worst thing that can happen is I lose you and I'll have to sign on again. Let me go get my thumb drive.
You got it.
Well, you'll have to excuse my ensemble here. I didn't dress for the occasion.
Well, it's 9:44 in the evening, so we're all kind of.
Well, when did we start? About, I don't know, 15 minutes ago. It hadn't moved very far, has it?
No, don't look like it's moved at all.
Oh,
Not
oh
sure
yes.
what's.
Yeah, it has.
Oh, it has moved.
Because if you can see my arrow, let me see if I can do this. I like to do this.
Also, it has moved a little bit.
Okay. There's some sort of an outlet right about there on the wall of the VAB, and that was visible in front of this part of the. So it's moved that much, maybe 10 feet.
10 feet.
Well, nobody ever said it went fast and covered a lot of ground.
Nobody said it was going to be a quick operation.
No, no, it didn't. God. All right, I don't know what's going to happen here, but we'll try it. There. What can you see now, Jeremy? Anything? Can you see my slide?
No, if you want to email it to me, I can load the slides up.
Yeah,
if
I'll
you'd like.
do that. And this is going to take some. explanation because this is not the entire VAB. This is part of the assembly of the crew module, the service module, and the launch escape tower. Just that upper part, not
Okay.
the launch vehicle at all. And that's where the notch has been cut out to accommodate that launch escape system. So I was wrong. And I don't know if I can find a picture of the VAB. Perhaps the VAB, they didn't have to cut this out. But let me send this to you and you can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, go ahead and email.
What I'll do-
add
I
it
think
to
what
the
I'll
stream.
do is just take a picture of it with my camera and then send that.
Here you can actually see a shot of the VAB, again, the vehicle assembly building with one of the Saturn V rockets from the Apollo era on the launch crawler,
Let's see.
which is being rolled out. So this is sort of an analogy to what's happening for the Artemis I launch that we're watching here. Oh, here we go. Now it's scaling up. So it's actually showing more of the top.
Let me quick keynote.
So you're beginning to see the top of the rocket, the launch vehicle.
Yeah, well, that looks like it's the upper part there. And there's the payload, the crew module.
All right, I got your image.
So that rectangular opening there to accommodate the launch escape system, but that's not the VAB, because what you're looking at the base is the service module and the crew module, and then the launch escape system. It doesn't include any part of the launch vehicle. So, but it almost appears on the VAB, if you can look at what NASA's sending us right here. Now that might have been cut out to accommodate Apollo as well, because as I said, the heights are about the same. I'm going to go back to my.
All right, so let's see here. I don't know if I can find the next slide here.
Yeah, I was right. The space launch system is 1 foot longer, 1 foot taller than the Apollo full up Apollo 5 stack. So I'm going to do something else.
All right, so here's the image you sent me.
All right.
Kind of illustrate.
I've got another one to send you for your viewing pleasure.
Excellent. Right. So waiting for the signal to come in. Here we go.
This photo I just sent you is for those that just can't wait until until the whole system exits the vehicle assembly building.
Oh, yeah. So that's the entire stack.
Yeah. What happened to the photo that NASA sent us? Had some audio from NASA? Or
Yeah.
your wash machine?
Nope. Not my washing machine. That's NASA, baby. Yeah, that's their feed.
Oh, here we are. Oh, this is better.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Different angle. God, that's big. I don't know how I turned my camera off, but I did.
Oh, yeah. It's gotten dark by you, huh?
Yeah. I mean, you can hear me and see my name, but it's and that's all right. You don't need to
Are
be
the lights
looking.
on? You still have your lights on?
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
Huh. Yeah, my camera light is on. Oh, that's all right. I think there's a strobe right up there at the very top of the launch escape system. Boy, that's a slow process. I wonder why they're doing it at night.
All right. So there's the picture you sent. And this essentially is what it would look like during the day. Artemis
the
1
pad.
launch. Yeah.
And of course, what they're facing us is this backside is what we're seeing coming out of the building.
Right. So we're seeing, right. We're only seeing the back of the rocket when we look at the stream here.
Yeah. But eventually, they probably got other cameras. And once this clears the building, they'll probably have another camera. Or maybe one on the side. That'll be exciting to see.
Yeah.
They got a camera on the side so you can see, because it's about cleared the building by now. Gee.
It's moving slowly but surely.
Yes, it is.
So there you can see it.
Yeah, and this is the part that was called to our attention by Paul Marshall when he gave his talk.
Right.
For the veterans, they had to cut that niche there to accommodate the launch escape system.
That's the launch escape system. Again, if there's a mission abort, you jettison the spacecraft.
Yeah, I mean the capability of those rockets right there are pretty significant.
Yeah.
It'll go to, I think, what did they say? 0 to 500 miles an hour in a couple of seconds. 10 Gs.
Wow.
10 Gs. I mean, it's well, you want to get off that booster. Yeah.
Right. Right. You don't want to be attached to that vehicle.
I'm just wondering, what did it do to the crew? They're going to be all strapped in, but 10 Gs.
10 Gs. That's still pretty intense. Again, that hasn't happened yet, but if it ever does.
No, let's hope it doesn't. And this whole design is much sleeker and from the Apollo days.
Right. That's quite a launch vehicle, huh? It's almost like a hybrid.
Yeah, I
of a
wish they
Saturn and
painted
the,
white, but I don't think they're going to.
What's that?
Well, it's obvious they're not because you can see it now.
Yeah.
We're looking at the genuine article. Now, here's some of the questions, and I don't have answers yet. I'm not sure if NASA's does. Is this Saturn launch, this space launch vehicle, there's something about the structure and the way it's built. They can only deliver about one of these a year.
Yeah, why is that? Only one a year?
Well, I don't know all the answers. I've got to research that more. It
Okay.
might be just a huge, but the immensity of that core stage. Of course, there's tanks inside there. Your propellant isn't floating around there aimlessly. Not hypergolics. You wouldn't get far. But they're lighting this side.
Hey, Bill, I think you can get your camera back on the lower left. You see where it says cam next to mute? Stop cam, start cam. Should see a... Yeah, try it again.
Don't know.
Okay, that's all right.
That's all right.
But you can see the rocket starting to come out now.
Yeah, yeah. And this side is being lighted. But yeah, it's and that's one of the things that one of the articles I read online about how does that compete with the Starship of SpaceX, because they are much cheaper. And they got the capability of recovering. I mean, they can set that thing down vertically. And I think that's why some of the decisions on Gateway haven't been made yet.
Right.
Now, I think it's fair to say that Artemis II and III will go with this space launch system, but I'm not positive beyond that.
Really? Okay.
Well, that's me talking. Now, I mean, the decisions may have been made, and I just got to get some confirmation. But that's why this presentation of mine is sort of a work in progress.
Oh, sure.
Now, look at this. They've cleared that doorway.
They've cleared the door. You can see the gap between the booster on the right side there with the red NASA letters.
Yeah.
And then that part of the
this
vehicle assembly building is starting to get wider. I know it looks like it's not moving. Oh, well, it's like watching a glacier move.
Yeah, watch that. That'll get bigger, that space right there. But that's amazing, because it didn't look like it had cleared, and it certainly has. Different camera.
Yep, you can start to see it move now.
As slow as this is, it's exciting. It really is exciting.
Well, we're seeing a reboot here.
Yeah.
Of moon missions. So again, if you look at the countdown window here in the upper right, it's August the 16th today. If all goes well, on August the 29th,
and that's early in the morning.
I've
got written down something like 7:30.
7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be our next stream.
And the window is on, just a couple of hours. And I got a class that day. I'm going to have to work around that.
Yeah, you have to work around that, Bill.
Yeah. See how much this is widened, this gap, just over the last couple of minutes. So it's moving. In fact, this is almost even with the camera. Look at that. It's closing.
So there you can see it. August 29, 2022. You said 7:30 a.m. is the is the launch of
And
Artemis I.
I think that's Central.
Central Time.
But things could change, so I'm just saying to everybody, just watch it.
Yeah.
Just Google, Artemis I launch. They'll tell you. God, I hope it goes well.
I do too. It's always nerve-wracking.
Did you look up the bio on the launch director?
No.
Charlie Blackwell Thompson?
Oh, really?
Look up Charlie bio right now if you can. You can do it on your phone.
Clemson University.
Yeah.
Engineer, the launch director for NASA's Exploration Ground Systems program. Oversee the countdown liftoff.
But the best part about it is Charlie is a lady.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, there's the upper stage. Service module, crew module, and launch escape tower. Just that part.
Now you're starting to see it come into full view.
This is neat.
This is great.
Well, look at the left.
Yeah.
There it is.
So there you can see
Yeah, there she
Shirley
is.
Blackwell Thompson, first female flight director.
Yep,
Artemis I,
come a long
launch
way.
date. Yeah, come a long way. So the mission duration, 42 days, 3 hours, 20 minutes. It will travel 1.3 million miles. And if all goes well, it'll splash down on October the 10th, 2022. So launch date will be
You
August the
know,
29th.
you know the adrenaline is.
The adrenaline's pumping now,
going
right?
through the veins right now. Look at this distance. It's
Well,
out
we're
of
seeing it
the-
move now.
Hopefully, it won't have to go back.
Yeah. Definitely is a slow process moving a
Oh,
vehicle
God,
of this
yeah.
size.
Yeah,
And again, it is empty right now. There's no propellant in the rocket, correct?
correct.
So when do they fill it up? When do they put the...
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'll have to look that up. But I know with Starship, SpaceX, I don't think they fill that until after the crew's on board.
Was that right?
Yeah, they do it with about 25 minutes to go or something. It's really quick,
Wow.
and it's probably pressurized. But yeah, and that's one of the thing that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So they put the...
On the one hand, the crew can get on board and do all their thing, and they got an empty booster below them. But then you're filling that booster while the crew's sitting on top of it. I'm not so... But... So I don't know about this. Of course, this is a NASA launch vehicle, not SpaceX, so I don't know.
Huh.
And of course, once and I think, well, on this one, that slide I showed a week and a half ago, it's the oxidizer is liquid oxygen and the fuel is liquid hydrogen.
Wow.
They're going to have to change cameras on us pretty soon. Look at that over on the left. That's neat. Looks like a building.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
You can see the shadow of the rocket.
Oh, right there. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm going to grab a screenshot. That's neat. Thank you. And it moves. The shadow moves. How about that?
Yep. Yeah, you can see it move.
Yeah.
And you can see the silhouette on the left side there. I'm seeing the right thing there of the launch vehicle getting closer to the launch pad. I think I'm seeing that correctly.
Where, on the left or right?
The left image.
Here?
The just above the caption that says Artemis Rollout. You can see some of the lights.
Oh yeah. Well,
is that what I'm seeing there?
It can't be that close to the pad because I mean it's just left the VAB. It's got 4 miles to go.
Right. This is a 4-mile journey.
Where this building is. Well, you got me.
That could be it, though. I mean, it's a big booster.
Well,
you can be a couple miles away and still see it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the image on the right. That's not 2 miles between this and that.
No. Not the feed on the right. Go to the feed on the left.
Yeah.
Which is mostly dark, and then you see the silhouette there of the rocket. And it looks like
but the rocket is still close to the vehicle assembly building.
Yeah. Maybe that's not it.
Which, I mean, I'm saying that's the rocket, but
Yeah, that's the rocket.
Who knows where the camera is?
Right there.
Boy,
That's got to be.
they're going to have to. They're going to have to switch cameras on us pretty soon.
That's right.
This is neat the way that's disappearing.
Well, at first it looks like it's not
past
moving
us.
at
We're
all.
standing right here. It just passed us.
It
Did
just
you
passed
wave?
Yeah, the first part of this feed wasn't very exciting, but now
I guess not.
Yeah, but now you can see the distance between the building and the rocket actually starting to grow now.
There's a shadow.
Yeah, you can see the shadow of the rocket now.
God, it looks like the Empire State Building or something.
Right. Moving the Empire State Building.
Well, boy, just think of the design hours that went into that crawler, that whole concept.
Yeah, you have to design it, which means draw it out, sketch it out.
And that's 50-year-old technology.
Right. I think that's what's hard to believe. You think about, we saw that movie a few years ago, the documentary on Apollo 11.
Yeah.
Remember that? We saw that in...
I'll never forget it.
The opening scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it puts you right there as they're walking and moving the Saturn V rocket into position. You're seeing the same process here.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is 55-year-old technology, because it was 50 years ago this year that Apollo 17 was launched.
Yep.
And that was the last mission to the moon.
December.
We're coming up on the 50th anniversary since we've been back to the moon, December of 1972.
Yeah.
I'll see. There we go. All right, now they're moving the camera. Now you get a full view of the SLS.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good shot.
That's a good shot right there.
Yeah, I'm going to cheat a little bit. When that thing moves a little bit more, I'm going to take another screenshot, and then you can take that and crop the heck out of it. That's a pretty exciting picture.
Yeah.
Jeez, I really don't want to stay up all night watching this.
Well, it's been an hour and a half since we've been on, and we can see the process is underway. So, yeah, I probably need to do my evening chores eventually too. I know you got to walk the dogs, but this is exciting to watch. See the initial stages of this mission. And again, this is Artemis I. So, if all goes well, it'll launch on August the 29th, and it's essentially an elliptical lunar orbit, a close flyby of the moon, unmanned, of course, but it's testing out the launch vehicle in preparation for future Artemis missions in the coming years that could possibly put a crewed mission back on the moon. But this makes it more real, Bill.
Yes, it does.
You lived through the Apollo missions, the Apollo era, and
But I never watched this. I never.
never saw this part of it.
No.
So you had to wait for the twin
I don't
sister
think
of Apollo.
Broadcast. It was just there.
This really gives you a sense of the enormity and the scale of a mission like this.
Now, are you watching on your computer, right?
I am, correct.
I'm sure with a smart TV, all you need is an HDMI cable, and we probably put this thing on big screen.
Oh, yeah.
Try that.
Oh, absolutely. So it's been an hour and a half, Bill. I think, oh, there we go. So we're waiting for the live feed to come in. This is going to continue for a while. How long does it take to think this thing?
Until they get there. I don't think they're going to take a break.
No, they're not taking a break. Yeah, how long does it take this to go 4 miles?
Well, at this speed, I mean, we're probably looking easily at 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. So this is going to be a 4 or 5 hour
Well, it'll be
process.
sunrise by the time they get there.
Right. So it's going to be well into the middle of the night before they get there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Well, that's why they said earlier that you can run an errand and come back and catch up because
yeah.
now that they've cleared the building, this shot probably isn't going to look a whole lot different.
Right. I think we've seen
several hours.
Right. This is the shot that they're going to show for the next several hours. Again, it looks like it's not moving, but it's moving pretty.
Well, we don't have anything to compare it with, but we know it is.
Yeah. When are we talking? 1 mile per hour? How fast does this thing go?
Well, that was Saturn. I don't know about this one.
This one could be slower. Yeah. But even at 1 mile per hour.
Something else I want to talk about, and I want to learn more about it, but they've got and I think this is going to involve Gateway as well. They got some plasma engines that they're looking at.
Oh.
Yeah.
Plasma engines. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me send you the slide.
Okay.
Now that I let the cat out of the bag.
That's interesting.
Let me go back here. You get it?
Yep.
I got to learn more about that. But yeah, that was
That's
one of
neat.
the things that lady presented on the 4th. No, I don't see any image on the left side, on the left screen there. So,
Yeah, maybe too dark.
yeah, there's not much on the right either, actually. But it does certainly. The thing I'm thinking of is the reason they haven't painted that. Well, now they're moving the left screen around. The reason they haven't painted the core is I forget who the contractor is. It's a U.S. contractor. But then the service module is the European Space Agency. So, maybe they wanted to clearly show the difference. But I just think this whole thing would look better if it was all white like Saturn was.
Yeah.
Don't paint the boosters, but paint the core. But anyway, nobody asked me.
Yeah. Aesthetics is a very subjective thing, I suppose.
Well, yeah. It is to me. I still think we ought to have another camera. Well, maybe they're going to do that right now. I don't think so. Well,
no, they're moving one.
Yeah, that's good. Now you can see the whole thing. It's getting smaller. It's getting further away.
And
But
further
it'd be
away.
fun to pan back and see where the VAB is.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they did that to get some sense of scale, huh?
But at least they've got the whole stack there. Somebody's getting paid to do that. They can do a better job than this.
Right. And certainly they can afford somebody with a little bit of a...
Well, you and I can do that.
Right. So we can add this to... So this is the slide. Why solar electric propulsion? So this is one of the fuel sources that they're exploring for...
Well, I think so, yeah.
Solar arrays to collect energy from sunlight, which is converted into electrical power and carries approximately 10 times less propellant. Enables affordable and adaptable solutions for future human missions to the moon and eventually Mars.
And eventually on, yeah, that's what they're talking about.
Interesting.
Well, think of the economy of space and time and expensive. If you don't have to load up a bunch of hypergolic propellants, and you can use that.
Absolutely.
But I don't know anything about it. How you get any thrust out of it, or
right.
I gotta find out about that, because that's cool. I mean, it just looks good.
Well, this looks kind of 23rd century-ish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you see something like this on the Enterprise? One of the versions of the Enterprise. So, yeah, I mean, maybe there is some science to science fiction after all.
Well, those guys were, they were authors and they were visionaries, and a lot of this stuff is visionary.
Exactly.
I mean, I have to hand it to Elon Musk. In a way, the guy he's a visionary. I can see him run. Well, I guess maybe he can't run for president because he wasn't born here.
Right.
But why he's fooling around with Twitter, I don't know. But
yeah, it's a flawed model, and maybe he's just exposing it
in a brief amount of time. Well, for that matter, Tesla. I mean, Tesla's got some problems with, don't we all? And I mean, he's done a great deal. For that matter, Jeff Bezos, Amazon. What was Amazon 20 years ago? Books.
1999, it was a bookstore selling books on the internet. How
Good
revolutionary. Yeah, I wish I could find that image. That's fascinating, huh?
Well, this has been fun joining you. I mean, I could have done this, but it's a lot more fun talking to somebody about it. Thanks for doing this. This isn't Zoom, is it?
No, this is StreamYard. It's a new program for live
Never heard of it.
streaming. We're actually been broadcasting for an hour and 43 minutes now. We'll wrap up here.
What does
It's
it
not
cost?
live. I'm sorry?
What does StreamYard cost? I mean, is it a subscription?
I'm using the free version right now.
Do you see the people walking by?
Yeah, you can see people walking by.
They're occasional tourists, I guess.
Yeah. Wouldn't you love to be there, Bill?
Oh God, yeah. And the weather's probably perfect.
Right. Well, you never saw it, but I guess this is closest to seeing
Well,
it.
this is better than nothing, and then we'll get to watch the launch on the 29th, I hope.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again on the 29th if the launch is on. So we'll do another stream and
we'll do a big screen probably on that. Although you were with us on Christmas Day when we launched James Webb, weren't you? Yeah,
absolutely. And I was on that call. You bet.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. So, yeah, this has been very interesting. I appreciate you joining me for this, and I'm kind of testing out this tool, so that's great.
Yeah, it worked real well. Okay, well, I'm going to sign off. I'll probably
you got to walk the dogs.
What I had.
Yeah.
I'll let you sign off, and then I guess I'll probably just get a clear screen. Well, let's see. I got live here. I'll let you do this.
Sure.
All right. We'll talk tomorrow by text or something.
Yeah. No, stay in touch via text. And again, for those of you watching this, August 29, mark your calendars. Bill and I will be back, hopefully, for the live launch of Artemis I. All right, Bill. Have a good night. We'll see you hopefully. Well, we'll talk tomorrow. Take care, man. All right.